Hello everyone, and welcome to an analysis video. Today, I'm going to be talking about Life is Strange 2. I haven't made a video on this channel in a long time, but I'm going to probably start putting my analysis videos up here just so I don't clog the Nintendudes with solo videos. And I kind of miss doing This Mike Plays Games, you know, responding to my own comments and sort of seeing my own stuff grow on its own. I miss it. But ironically, as long as it's been, one of the last videos that I talked about was the Life is Strange announcement video when they first said that they're going to be talking about this game. And since then, a lot has happened with the progression of the series. Before the Storm came out and all the episodes for it came out, and that was incredibly awesome. But on top of that, at E3, they announced a game called The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. It came out about a week ago from the time that I'm recording this. And I've played it and I've beaten it, and I sort of want to talk about it because at the end of it, they have a little message. And during E3, they also kind of mentioned it, that this game is going to have legitimate ties to Life is Strange 2. They mentioned it was going to be sort of a bridge between the two games. I didn't really see a lot of connections to the first game outside of a couple of Easter eggs, but I guess they could become important. For those of you that didn't know, there was a letter from Principal Wells in it, so we know that there is some connection to Blackwell there with the mom and her potentially, I believe, being a student at the school. There was mention of Mark Jefferson, who was the teacher that, committed all the horrible crimes from Life is Strange that, I don't want to talk about it just in case, for the sake of spoilers, but, for those that have played it, you know who Mark Jefferson is and the role that he played in the first game, and so he was sort of mentioned in it. So there's a lot of references to that first series. There was nothing about Max Caulfield or Chloe Price, which isn't surprising because they're probably not going to be in this next game at all. All signs at this point pretty much say that it's going to be completely brand new. Chris is the main character of Captain Spirit. He's a young kid, and it doesn't even take place in Arcadia Bay. It takes place in a place called Beavers Creek. So it's a brand new area, not too far away from where Arcadia Bay was, but, it's still a brand new setting. I'll just give a basic overview of what I got from it. Personally, I did love the game. I liked the story in it. It was very short, and it wasn't too involved with anything. You play as a kid that has a really big imagination. He basically dreams of this alter ego called Captain Spirit. He has the whole costume for it. He's basically just like a typical kid, He draws pictures of it. He has all these enemies in his head. There's one part where if you go into the bathroom, you can do an interview with yourself where you pretend like you're the media interviewing Captain Spirit. And so he's just a kid with a crazy imagination that, wants to be a superhero and stuff. But then you learn he has a really sad backstory. His dad, he seems like a pretty decent guy at the start of it. He pours the cereal and he's playing along with his son. And honestly, he doesn't seem like a horrible person. He just seems like a guy whose life has sort of hit the fan. After his wife died, it seems like he became an alcoholic. There are signs that point to him being an abusive father. They don't directly say it, but there's a scene where they show the dad holding Chris's hand where there's a lot of bruises on it. And he says, is anyone at school asking about this? And he says, I feel horrible about this. I hope the pain's getting better, things like that. So, it seems like for all intents and purposes, we can pretty much safely assume that the dad caused those bruises. We don't know in what context or anything like that, but signs point to him being, not extremely abusive to where he's like knocking his son out, but to the point where he's at least scaring and intimidating his son. And it's sad to watch because, like I said, the dad seems like once upon a time he was a really good dad. And you can just tell that the death of the mom of Chris really had an impact on him. And it doesn't excuse abuse, and I don't want to get into that, but it is sad to see because it seems like at one point this was a really happy family. Kind of similar to Chloe Price's situation when you think about it. Granted, her mom never became abusive. She had an amazing mom that toughed it out, but when the dad died, that's sort of when Chloe started going crazy, and that's when that family had a lot of problems when they brought in the new guy, whose name I can't remember, the security guard. I'll put his name on the screen. So, maybe Chris is going to end up like Chloe in some ways, who knows. They also show a neighbor named Mrs. Reynolds, who seems to be very worried about you. She was walking through the neighborhood, and she hears a loud banging from your house when your dad slips and falls, and she comes to check on you, and she asks, is everything okay? How is your dad doing? If there's any problems day or night, you can come over to my house, and I'll take care of you, things like that. So she seems like an interesting character in her own right, in terms of the relationship that she could potentially have with Chris, if the dad ever does go too far and he really crosses that line of abuse. I don't know. So the story sort of ended openly. It never really had like this huge climax. Chris's dad is yelling at him, and so Chris ends up running away because the dad basically said, you're the reason mom died because you're the reason that she took the car or whatever. So Chris runs away into his treehouse, and then the ladder slips, he falls pretty decently amount, and then the superpower prevents him from hitting the ground. And it's interesting because in his imagination, he's always had these superpowers where like he'll pretend to like levitate things, but when something levitates, it's always like his dad pretending, or he's using his other hand or something. He's not really using superpowers. But this seemed like the first time where he might have actually used a superpower. Again, he has this huge imagination, so even though the screen showed it, it could have just been him landing on the snow softly and not getting hurt. There's a chance that he did get hurt and he sort of just hid in his imagination to cover his pain. There's a couple theories I have there as far as that goes, but I'm going to touch on those later. For now, I want to mention, how does this tie in? Because at the end, the story said that the choices are going to carry over to Life is Strange 2, and we're going to learn more about Chris in this sequel as well. So we know this is a character that in some fashion will be popping up, whether it's just through dialogue, whether it's through like some collectibles, or whether he's a playable character or the friend of a character. I don't know. But I do have some ideas. One of them is that maybe it's going to be his life 10 years down the road as an adult or teenager. Again, the Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit show him as a young kid, probably about like 8 or 9 years old. So maybe when the actual game comes out, it's going to be like 10 years down the road. And we're going to learn that maybe his dad did become more abusive, or, you know, that maybe he's living with Mrs. Reynolds because something happened to his dad or something, you know. That, I think, is the most likely scenario, is that we're not going to see Chris at the same age, that something's going to be going down later on. Maybe he does have some powers, and, you know, by the time we play, that he'll be used to them and adjusted to them. And instead of doing what we did with Max in Life is Strange, where she was learning to use her powers, maybe we'll play someone that knows how to use them. Or the story could pick up right off the bat, and he did actually have powers. One of the less possible theories that I thought about, and this is going to sound kind of crazy, but Life is Strange had a crazy story, so it's possible, is that maybe Chris died when he fell from the treehouse. Doesn't seem likely because it wasn't a long fall, and it was onto snow, so the idea of him dying from a fall like that is unlikely. But if he landed on a piece of wood or something, you never know. He could have got impaled or something. That is something Life is Strange could do. You know, it was like maybe he landed and died, and with the levitating power was sort of him like waking in like an alternate universe or something, because that's kind of what Life is Strange 1 was all about. I don't think this is likely, but it's something that crossed my mind. As soon as he started levitating and his powers became real, I thought, you know, maybe this fall was something more than just a fall, you know? And like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if he'll be a playable character or not. I think it's also likely that we're going to play someone different that knows Chris. You know, so maybe it's like a friend of Chris's or something from school, or some scenario like that. I don't think we're going to be playing as Chris in Life is Strange 2, but I think he might be there. There is a chance that there might be 2 playable characters. Life is Strange has never done that. Before the Storm was just Chloe, and the original episodic series was just Max. So I doubt they'll switch back and forth, but, you know, it is a possibility. But I think it's more than likely we're going to play as someone that knows who Chris is. But again, I don't know. Mum's been the word. They haven't really mentioned too much. Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit gives us an opening into one of the characters that'll potentially be in the game, but it still doesn't tell us at all what Life is Strange 2 is going to be about. We don't know what happened at the treehouse. The first game had the ability to rewind time. There is a chance that Chris might be getting some different power, like I mentioned, we saw with the levitating. I don't know how you can make a whole plot around that. I don't know if he ends up getting a rewind ability, or if that's just not going to be involved in this at all. I don't know. Again, the big question is what happened at the treehouse. Did he just get powers, or is there something more, like I said with the death thing? I don't know. It's very open-ended, but I'm excited to see what gets answered and what is left up in the air when Life is Strange 2 gets released. This made me excited for the game. I was a bit confused, and if you watched the video I made last year in May of 2017 when they first announced Life is Strange 2, I sort of mentioned I was a little concerned about what they're going to do and whether it's going to be based on Max or new characters. This little game definitely had me excited. So if you haven't played it yet, it's worth playing. It's very open-ended. There's not a whole lot of spoilers. I talked about a lot of stuff that goes on, but there's still a lot of little things you can learn about people. So it's really cool. I would recommend it. Episode 1 for Life is Strange 2 comes out September 27th, 2018. So there's still a lot of time for us to ponder and learn things. And I'm sure they'll make some announcements. Hopefully they don't spoil too much, because I kind of like going in blind. I don't really want to know if Chris is the main character until I load up the game. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. But that's all I have to say for that. If you've played Captain Spirit, let me know in the comments what you thought of that game and how you think it's going to relate to Life is Strange 2. If you found any connections to Life is Strange 1 that I didn't hear about, I'd love to hear about it. I only found a couple of Easter eggs. And let me know what you thought of Captain Spirit if you enjoyed the game, and how excited you are for Life is Strange 2, because I personally know that I am so excited for it. So with that being said, thanks everyone for watching. Bye-bye. And I will be uploading more videos to this channel. You don't have to worry about that.